It's Throwback Thursday, and today is just me. I'm going to talk a little bit about how our infertility journey started, and it kind of leads up to why we ended up adopting through foster care and private adoption. My name's Heather, and I'm married to Luke. I have 2 beautiful daughters and 6 handsome sons, and this is Just the Bells 10. Hello, Thursday. So it's just me today. We've had a really busy week. My kids have been working. We finally got nice weather. And so I didn't have time to get memories for my kids. But next week, I'll make sure I have more memories for my kids. So a lot of people have asked us about our journey through the infertility, adoption. And you know what? I'm going to just get on here every week and I'm just going to tell you a little bit about how we got to the point where we have 10 people in our home, 8 children. My children's names, for those of you who don't know, my children's names are David, Robert, Joshua, Hailey, Brendon, Gideon, Izzy, and Noah. I can't believe I got those right. I mean, I know their names, but to get them in order, I did them in order by age. The order of adoption, though, is David, Joshua, then I had Gideon, Izzy, Hailey, Noah right after that, and then Robert and Brendon. So that's how they came into our home through adoption. But I'm just going to take you to the very beginning of how it kind of all started. So when I was like 22, I was working with a friend of mine. We both worked at a Fashion Bug. I don't know if you remember Fashion Bug. I don't even know if they have Fashion Bugs anymore. And I remember her sitting there crying, and she was just sitting down. I think she was on like the sidewalk and she was crying, and I had walked up to her and I said, "What's going on?" She goes, "Well, I was just diagnosed with endometriosis." And at the time, I didn't know what endometriosis was. I'd never heard about it. I had no idea what it was. And she was just bawling and bawling. And she had just come from the doctor. And they had told her that she had a pretty progressive stage of endometriosis and that she wouldn't be able to have children. And my heart broke for her. And I thought to myself, oh, I hope that never happens to me. That's got to be horrible. And I mean, I was just very sad for her, and she was bawling, like she was so upset. And I just thought to myself, but I knew something. I might get emotional in this one, you guys. I just knew, you get that feeling where you just know something's off. And like I said, I remember saying to myself, man, I hope that never happens to me, because I did have a plan. My plan was, here's my plan. I would get married at 35. I would have 2 children, twin girls. I'd name them Alexandria and Victoria. And I would be a doctor. That was my plan. My plan was not to marry a farm boy. It was to not be a stay-at-home mom. It wasn't to have 8 kids. That was my plan. Well, little did I know my plan that I had planned for my life would change. So maybe a year later, after the incident with my friend, I was having some issues. Every other month I wouldn't have a period. And I thought, what is going on? And so I finally went to the doctors, and they said that I had a cyst the size of like a grapefruit on one of my ovaries, that I would have to have surgery. And at the time I was dating Luke. We were just dating, maybe not even a year. And I was scheduled for surgery to have one of my ovaries removed. And I was very upset about that, because that's 50% chance of having a family, right? And Luke was like, it's going to be okay. All my family were like, it's going to be okay. But for me, it wasn't okay. I mean, having surgery wasn't okay. So I had the surgery. And when I got out of surgery, the doctor came in and said, "Well, I'd like to talk to you." And I'm like, okay, They're like, "Well, when we went in to remove your ovary, it wasn't a tumor," because they thought it was a tumor. It was chocolate cysts. And I'm like, what are chocolate cysts? I mean, I truly was clueless, you guys. I was clueless. I had no idea what endometriosis was. But I do remember in high school, I had really, really bad periods. I would have to miss school because I was in so much pain. I do remember that from high school. So anyway, she proceeded to tell me that chocolate cysts were actual blood, that when you have your cycle, and I'm sorry if you're, hopefully it's just adults watching this, but so when you have your period, it all gets flushed out. But when you have endometriosis, what happens is it actually kind of goes and it forms scars. The blood forms scar tissue on your on your female reproductive system. It can go into your system, and it can form blood scars on your bladder, other organs. And so what that was a bunch of scar tissue from having endometriosis. And so they had diagnosed me, and I remember I was heartbroken, like heartbroken, because I thought, but I knew. And I just thought, man, I remember her crying and the doctors telling her she wouldn't be able to have children. And so I was so upset. And I remember talking to Luke, he's like, it's okay. Like, it's okay. You know, you'll be fine. And so that kind of started the whole journey of, you know, not being able to get pregnant, and then all the surgeries, you know, which I'll definitely get to in the future. But after that, you know, I was very upset, like very upset. And of course, I really didn't do anything to try to get pregnant because me and my husband weren't married. We weren't thinking about having children at the time. So there really wasn't an urgency to start start the different medicines or surgeries or anything. I wasn't in that place yet. You know, I was going to college. And so my husband and I got married. We got engaged in 2000 and in 1995. I had an internship down in Detroit. I actually was pre-med, and I decided to change my major because I was graduating, you guys. Like, I was heading to med school. I was graduating, but I had met my husband, and I just knew I wanted to be with him. And so I had changed my major to medical technology, which is a clinical lab scientist. So I work in the lab and test blood and, you know, urine and things like that, you know. And so I had to go downstate for a year. My husband and I got married in 96. And that's kind of when all the heartache started. And, you know, my husband was so great. He just reassured me that I love you. I didn't marry you because I wanted children. I married you because I loved you. And he was so supportive of all my tears and my heartbreak. And I'm starting to get emotional, but I know in the next videos, I'm going to get emotional because that's when like all the heartache started. And of course I was worried. I mean, when we got married, I was worried because I did want to be a mom. Wasn't it urgency at the time? Not really. You know, we're just married and we're still trying to find our way. And when we dated, of course, I wasn't thinking about being a mom. But now that we're married, it just started to become so real. Like, okay, I was told I might not be children. I have been diagnosed with endometriosis, which I didn't know existed. It was so bad that there were cysts on my ovary the size of a grapefruit, which I'm assuming is, you know, I don't know if they have levels of endometriosis. I don't really know, but obviously it was an extreme case because 8 years to have a kid, then no kid after that. You know, I mean, I have children, but I didn't deliver any children after that. So now that we're married, it now became so surreal that I might not be a mom. And at the time, I really wasn't aware of adoption or foster care. I'm just young. And I knew of some families that did foster care, but I really wasn't familiar with any of it. Adoption, foster care, none of it. I wasn't thinking of anything because your first instinct is, I want to have a child of my own. I want to have a child that is a part of me, that looks like me, that has behaviors like me. I want him to look like my husband. I want him to be a part of us. You know, and that's your first desire, right? That's your first want, is to be a mom, to deliver your own child, to be a part of you, to be able to have that bond. And now it's just become like, okay, you're married. You have endometriosis. Now what's going to happen? And so our journey is starting. It might not have started like maybe the first 6 or 7 months of us being married was okay. But after the first year is when I just felt like things were falling apart for me. And of course it affects your marriage, right? When you want a baby so bad, the men don't really understand that desire to be a mom. It's just different. You can explain it to people, but unless you're in that position and you are trying to have a child, but you can't, that yearning, that desire, it's hard to explain to people who can just have kids. I mean, of course that yearning to be a mom is the same if you have children. I'm not saying that is different, but when you're not able to, it really does consume you. It consumes your thoughts. It consumes your prayers. It consumes your dreams. It consumes all day. And for some reason, when you can't have children, you notice all the babies and all the kids. And you try really hard to be happy for those around you having babies, and you are happy. But yet you're sad because you're frustrated and you're jealous, a little angry, a little irritated. So next week, maybe if somebody does a Throwback Thursday next week, maybe I'll just come on here and just continue the story. So next week, I'm going to start talking about after we've been married for a year, and now the desire and that urgency to have a family is now more real, and just all that I went through, what our family went through, me and my husband. I'm going to share with you that next step. And I'm probably going to have to bring Kleenex, you guys, because even though I got to have my child and I have 7 wonderful children, it's just such an emotional roller coaster. Physically, spiritually, emotionally, it's draining. It's so draining. And if you're watching this and you've been through this or going through this, you get it. You get it. It's just, and I'm so thankful that our outcome was great. I'm so thankful that there are other options like adoption, like foster care, in vitro. There are other options, but it does become consuming. So come back next week, and I'm going to continue letting you share with you our journey on the infertility and wanting to have a family. All right.